I'm Van.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Vita and Chip and Culpy.
Batteries.
But it's plugged in over there.
Yeah, but the knob is plugged out.
Okay, so this is for Josh.
Thy art is murder, son of misery.
Son of misery. Sounds fun.
Looks like it's going to be very
Uplifting.
helpful.
We're all going to be happy after.
Get you through a rough day. You can always count on thy art is murder. Shout out to Andy. Andy Marshy.
In his crazy burger that he wants to eat.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's a lot of grease in that.
Shout out to Australia. Australia's taking care of business right now. You got Neo. We got Thy Art is Murder. You got, there's another band too that was really tearing it up from Australia.
Yeah, there was a couple.
Forgot. All right, let's do it.
And go. Oh, yeah. I really like the sound of that.
Yeah, this is heavy.
I know, I liked it.
Heavy stuff.
It's so funny because some heavy stuff I don't like, but this I liked.
Pretty sure Marshy wrote this one.
Oh, really?
Marshy, yeah, he's a mastermind. We actually did an interview with the Big Obi. So, shoot, maybe we'll see him at NAMM.
Who shall be there?
Okay. So, he starts off the song saying, I, the child of light. And then he ends the song saying that he's reborn, all hail the son of misery, the son of misery. So he started off as the child of light, and then he got reborn into the son of misery.
Oh my gosh. Usually don't people get better in their rebirth?
Yeah, maybe he's talking about his deconversion. Maybe he was born into a Christian household or whatever, and then he this is describing his deconversion, because he says, into the ether I dissolve, demon to dust I evolve.
Whoa.
So it's like, from a Christian perspective, we'd say if you lost your faith that it got dissolved, and that, he demon to dust, But he's looking at it as he evolved.
Mm-hmm. He said, transform, the fire set me free. A lot of times bad things happen in people's lives, and then that's why they put away their religion.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what the fire is?
I mean...
Or do you think it was just metaphorical?
Well, fire is like the number one threat in Western evangelicalism, right? The fires of hell. Like, if you don't, believe the gospel, you're going to go burn in hell forever, blah, blah, blah. So fire, he's using fire as a metaphor throughout the entire song. And he's basically saying he's gonna embrace it and use that. Maybe the doctrine of hell or whatever was a final straw for him, where he's like, transform, the fire sets me free, in the sense of that was the end sticking point for him. Only ashes left to burn. Give them death, give them sin, give them fire. So it seems like his understanding of Christianity is that that's all that gets talked about. And of course, it is a valid criticism to some degree, where people are only talking about hell, fire, and damnation and judgment and blah, blah, blah. And that's the only way you can get people to walk the line and be who they're, do what they're supposed to do. Of course, our understanding of God is different from that. But I can't say that hasn't, that's been a staple, especially of Western Protestant Christianity. I was listening to N.T. Wright. He was talking about, he had this meeting with these Eastern Orthodox people. Yeah. And I think they were in the Sistine Chapel, actually. Okay. And the Sistine Chapel has all that stuff from Michelangelo. And there's this scene, there's the judgment scene, and then, there's heaven and hell, and all this fire, and there's this guy. It's this pretty crazy visual. We'll probably try to find it and put it in the video. But there's this one part of the Sistine Chapel where the guy is condemned to hell, and he realizes it, and he's just got this crazy, like, whoa face.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Can you look for it on this one?
Yeah. I mean...
Because that'll be right there for us. Less likely to forget it.
But anyway, so anyway...
Oh my gosh, that?
Yeah, that guy right there.
Oh, it's very easy to find. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, he gets the... Basically, it's him realizing, shit.
Right here. Click on the big picture.
So yeah. I guess you
what
can
is
just
it?
blow that. It's just,
there's a demon holding on to him, pulling him down.
Yeah,
Two demons.
And yeah. Like he
Wow.
basically just got condemned, and he's realizing what's going to happen with him.
Yep.
So that brand of Christianity has been around for a long time in the Western world, and you have to say it. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the thing.
Well, if you're right, he says, I breathe the fire of the gods. So maybe he was the one that was saying, yeah, you'll go to hell if you know what I mean? Like, this is at the beginning. I, the child of light, siren of sanity, scepter of the realm of absolute morality. I breathe the fire of the gods.
Yeah, the only thing is, he says, the wisdom of the wicked consuming all. So, the fire here are... the fire, it comports to the wisdom of the wicked that consumes everyone.
Oh.
So what he's saying is that he's taking in the wisdom of the wicked, or what Christians are calling wicked, because that's reality to him. In his mind, it's reality. Like, I'm breathing in reality. I'm actually consuming reality. You guys are the ones that are whatever. But he's in the context of the scepter of the realm of absolute morality. You know, that's always, it's a strange, to me, it's a strange criticism. I talked about this in the Napalm Death video, where it's like, everybody has absolute morality. There's a sort of resentment of Christianity that we believe that morals are absolute. And that the only reason there's that resentment is because there are certain moral values that people want to evolve and change and remix. You know, you shouldn't have sex before you're married. People want to say, come on, move, you know, adapt.
Yeah.
You know, so there are certain sexual mores that the majority of us would say, well, no, that needs to still be absolute. Like, if you were to say, can they have sex with children? They'd say, hell no, you can't do that with kids.
Right.
Although there is that thing with that 10-year-old, with the 10-year-old drag kid with the naked man in a picture.
No, that's
like, how is that guy not arrested?
That is so wrong.
How's that guy not arrested?
Right.
But that's what happens when you start playing games with like what moral rules you can bend. And I'm sure, like I said, everybody in our community, at least that I know of, you know, I could name them off the top of my head, would be horrified that there's this 10-year-old kid with this naked man and we're taking a picture. And all that. But like, why? So that guy would say, hey, chill, it's 2019. You know, or who are you to impose your absolute morality on me?
Yep.
So I think there needs to be a little bit more thought work with folks that criticize Christianity for having absolute morality, because everybody believes in some degree of absolute morality, and everybody also believes that there are certain types of moralities that should be pushed on other people. For example, the North pushed their morality onto the Southern folks.
Yeah.
However you want to call it, that's what ended up happening. The Southern folks said, okay, if you don't want a slave, don't have one. That was literally a quote from back in the day. If you don't want a slave, don't have one. But don't impede my right to have a slave.
Or if somebody's assaulting you or stealing from you, we have no problem having the cops come and push their morality on the perpetrator.
Every prison that we have is an imposition of morality.
Yeah.
We're saying that, and it just so happens that certain types of moralities are codified into law, so that we have, you know, legal. But I mean, the root of all, you know, legal jurisprudence is still morality. We're just saying that there's some types of morality that get codified into law for the sake of our society. So everybody believes in certain degrees of absolutes, and everybody believes in imposing morality on other people. To me, it's just, where are you on the continuum? And I think that's a question that non-believers have to answer on the liberal side, and that believers have to answer on the conservative side. Meaning, okay, as a Christian, since I believe that morality is absolute, where is the line between saying, okay, this is a personal morality that's between them and God, and this is morality that we need to impose on people? Well, civil war, we're going to impose that on you.
Yeah.
You're a bank robber, we're going to impose that on you. Okay, so in what to what degree do we push the social conversation to where it's like, and these also need to be imposed on people? But on the other hand, with our non-believing friends, aside from the very real problem of how do you even establish an absolute morality from a atheistic worldview, let's ignore that for a second and say, okay, well, you have a set of moralities that you think should be absolute for all time. Like, you probably believe that nobody should be able to rob a bank. You probably believe that people who, you know, abuse kids should end up in some sort of legal situation. Well, where's the line for you? Do you say, well... And most people say, well, if you're hurting another person...
That's what I was going to say. That's what they usually say. But where did that come from?
Well, the question is, well, to what degree, and how are you defining person? Because these are the same people...
Where did that come from in the first place?
Yeah, these are the same people that will say, well, abortion's bad. Abortion's okay because they're not a person. That's how they skirt around it. So, well, what if they said their brain isn't fully developed? Well, a child's brain isn't fully developed till they finish puberty.
Yeah.
Well, what if I say, well, those
early 20s,
those people aren't persons. I'm just using it as an example. You know, like the morality question, I think, needs to be handled from a non-believer's perspective with a little bit more nuance. Because I don't think just complaining that Christians have absolute morality, I'm afraid that that's not going to solve the problem, because then it creates a whole slew of other problems that I've yet to see musically. Now, I've talked to a bunch of atheists who have I could tell have absolutely wrestled with all the contours and nuance of what that means. But musically, I haven't seen anybody really approach the morality question with all the complexities that it engenders. It's like this one-sided thing, which is, hey, we're liberal non-believers, and you nasty Christians are, and like I said, if it was a valid complaint, I wouldn't have a problem saying it's a valid complaint. I just think it's a simplistic way to look at the world. And that's not the way the world is. Anytime I see like generally simple, characterizations of issues, I'm always a little bit skeptical. But anyway, so that's interesting. Bound the heart of man, enslaved to the Lamb of Christ.
Warmed in the furnace of hell.
Cerebral sacrifice.
Yeah.
Lay down the plow, pick up the sword, embrace the blade.
Yeah, because that's a flip of what the scripture says.
Right, they'll put down their swords and turn them into plowshares.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things where it's been a constant criticism, particularly of Western Christianity, because the Eastern folks didn't take part in Crusades.
Right.
The Eastern Rite didn't take part in Crusades.
I still can't believe we did that.
Yeah, and Protestants are going to say, and we're Protestants, they're going to say, oh, it's the Catholics, and I get the argument, because the same people that launched the Crusades are also the same people that were burning Protestants at the stake.
Yeah.
But it still falls under Christendom. Like I don't.
Was their banner.
I don't think the Pope at the time was a Christian, but your regular grunt crusader.
Yeah.
To the best of his ability, he was a Christian. They were genuine. I believe they were genuine Christians.
It's just so.
And they did a bunch of atrocious shit.
Yeah.
For sure. So like the main guys, I don't believe were Christians, but but they weren't the ones that were doing the swordplay either. So this is one of those. But and this is one of the when I talk about pacifism, and most of the time, I'm talking about non-lethal pacifism. And when I see an unbeliever or a person who doesn't identify themselves as a Christian, when I see a person going, that's bullshit, I understand where they're coming from. Because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But for the life of me, when Christians do it, when Christians have a problem with like non-lethal pacifism, I don't understand it. Because they've confused the Constitution with the Bible.
Yeah.
Like
they quote that more than the Bible.
Yeah.
They know what the Constitution says way more clearly than they know what the scriptures say.
Right. So that's why, it's like, oh, this happened in the Middle Ages. Why are you still talking about it? Well, the reason atheists should rightly still talk about it is because America has the highest concentration of evangelicals in the world, and we also have 300 million guns. And there's still, now, if something happened to where, see, I don't think it's completely crazy, the idea that something could happen where evangelicals, gun-toting Second Amendment evangelicals get activated and start using that on a mass scale. I don't think that that's impossible. Like, if I woke up tomorrow and I saw, we saw that documentary on militias. These dudes that are out in the woods in Montana.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And most of them are Christian. They might not be nice, but again, you can't deny that they're Christian. So it's like our relationship to the sword makes the crusade criticism still valid in 2019.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah.
Now, if the majority of us were saying we're putting down the sword and we won't use lethal force in any way, shape, or form, even to defend ourselves, if we were saying that in mass, then we'd say, okay, this is not a valid criticism. It happened, in the in the Middle Ages.
That's not the case.
But that's not the case.
No.
And the most powerful group of evangelicals on the planet are American evangelicals, and we're the ones that have all the guns. As a matter of fact, you take an atheist and an evangelical, as I give you $1 million, guess which one has the gun? Who would you guess?
The Christian.
You'd guess it was a Christian.
Yep.
The atheist, you get a better shot at a home invasion. I mean, God forbid, that's not for a law. But if you're a home invader, you got a better chance of getting out alive going into an atheist house than you would a Christian's house. A Christian will blow you away and feel good about it.
So weird.
So it's like, this is a really, really good, valid criticism. Lay down the plow, pick up the sword, embrace the blade, sow the seeds of judgment, taste the fruit of the crusade. Here we go. We're back at it again. Like, we don't learn.
Yeah.
I actually had to have an actual, like, moderated debate with someone over not killing people.
Oh, I know.
And the guy is a Christian.
Yeah.
And the guy was a hardcore Christian, like.
An influential Christian, too.
Yeah, like, he was a real, he still is, like, a real,
Yep.
like, real life, put himself on the line. You know, and what's interesting is that he's put himself in situations just like us where his life was threatened, but he would never think to kill somebody.
Right.
But if it's in another context, like a home invasion or something, he's gonna
Light him up.
He's gonna blow you away and feel good about it. He'll post that shit on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I think he would.
He would, for sure. And he'd have a ton of people congratulate him, a ton of Christian people congratulate him. It's a pretty crazy.
That is wild.
That's why I always like cringe a little bit when I hear Christians go, you know, roll their eyes about the crusade. Like, maybe Christians in the UK can do that because they're generally peace-loving people. People in the UK still can't understand our affinity with guns over here.
No.
Like, they don't get it. You know, poor Ian was trying to figure it out. But I really think that that's a problem. It's still valid. For sure. All right. Only ashes left to burn. Nothing shall return. Our destiny to define. Nothing will survive. That's probably talking about our destiny defined, nothing will survive. Talking about like the apocalyptic, premillennial dispensational narrative, which is God's going to come down and like set the whole world on fire and kill everyone. Be like 5 people left. Which, of course, there are other options. That this whole idea. Let me just say this. And look, if somebody wants to actually have a formal debate on it, I would gladly do it on the other channel. The idea
on the Middle America
that there is going to be, that God's going to disappear millions of Christians, and then the Antichrist is going to show up, and there's going to be 7 years of this and that, and then everything's going to go to hell, and then God's going to come up and just destroy the world with fire and just completely destroy everything. That is, okay, we've been at this for 2,000 years as Christians, okay? That ideology is about 180 to 200 years old. So we've been around for 2,000 years. That ideology is about...
very young.
It's extremely young. And I think it has serious problems, biblically speaking. Fatal problems that I think are like, make that view of the world literally impossible. And if there's a Christian that wants to debate that, then great, I'd love to do it. But I can see, like, think this through. Like, let's say you were raised, hell, threat, hell. And then you were raised, and God's going to come in, like, just completely destroy the world. That's the end game for the world. That's God's end game for the world, is going to turn everything to ash. Like, I could see why you would have a negative idea of God.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, I could definitely see it. Of course, we don't believe that. Our actual belief is that
it's going to get better.
God's will for the world is that things get progressively better, that we turn our swords into plowshares, that we're going to figure out one day that the cycle of violence, even if it's in self-defense, doesn't work to actually ending violence and creating the world that we want to see. And I have full belief that, biblically speaking, we'll come up with an economic system that is something that's better than capitalism and better than socialism and fits the ideals of the what communism was trying to, you know. So I believe in a very, very good future for the world. And I believe that we're going to figure it out with God's help, inshallah. But that's not the version of the world and of God that people have heard.
No.
So if you've only heard this, then of course...
It's interesting because a lot of times it's the gun-toting Christians that are also the ones that
for sure.
believe everything's going...
Yeah, that's why they got their guns.
Crash and burn.
That's why they got their guns.
No, that means that they thought they were going to get left behind in the rapture.
No, because they believe that things are going to get progressively worse, and then God's going to have to zap us out of here.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure that they're packing heat, so that, you know, they don't have to actually suffer for their faith. Yes, I said it. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting song. Of course, you know, And of course, First John is toward the end of the Bible. But where John says, there's no fear in love, perfect love casts out fear, because fear has to do with torment.
Yep.
And there's a specific type of fear that God says, I don't want you to have that type of fear. I don't want you to fear me in the sense of you're afraid of my torment. Because he says, if you're doing that, then you cannot perfect love.
Right.
John says, the one who fears has not been perfected in love. So to the degree, I'm not saying you can't be a Christian if you fear hellfire. I'm not saying that. But what John is saying is, to the degree that that's mixed in with your love is to the degree that it actually dilutes love. That's not what God wants. And I think it's placed toward the end of the Bible for a very strategic reason, because you're getting a progressive revelation of who God is. And so when Jesus shows up, it's like, boom, this is exactly who God is, and this is exactly what he wants from you. Because at the end of the day, he's only ever wanted our hearts. Period. Full stop. So, you know what's weird is sometimes I feel like people have to reject God sometimes to survive psychologically. Like they've got to reject a certain view of God that was foisted upon them.
Right.
But I'm not particularly certain that that's equivalent to actually rejecting God.
I don't think so. I don't think it is.
I just think that there's some versions of God that are just too oppressive for a person to live in that world. There's some people that somehow function in that universe with that version of God, and I'm not saying that they're not Christian, but I think there's other people that just can't function in that type of world.
Yeah.
And so they'll. And I'm not saying that's what's happening with him. I'm just saying the idea that a person rejects God or is deconverted or reborn again into unbelief. I'm not sure, ironically speaking, if that's not God saving that person psychologically, because it's some of the stuff is extremely damaging.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I can't tell you. I mean, good Lord, I was just talking to that atheist dude that he and I were having a discussion. I guess his parents were, he's 18, 19 years old. His parents were hiding by the door.
Yeah.
And then they just lit into the kid for, half hour, 45 minutes. It's like,
I know. I thought that was terrible. I'm like, wow, you picked the absolute worst thing to do in that situation.
And he wasn't being, some atheists could be silly and ad hoc. He wasn't being like that. He was like, he was being assertive, but he was being, extremely respectful.
At least the kid was in a debate.
Right, he wasn't mocking God. I mean, I look at all that stuff. If you're willing to actually wrangle and wrestle around on the topic, then obviously there's something there.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm always an optimist when it comes to that stuff, but good Lord. So I just think that sometimes that stuff gets rejected for the person's own mental health, and God swoops in and just kind of
I would agree with that.
Puts a veil over their eyes so that they can live, because their version of God is disastrous. What do you give the song?
I really liked it. I'm
It's
going
heavy as
high
hell.
again on this one. It's another 9.8 for me.
This was heavy as hell.
Yeah.
A 9.6 for me. A little bit simplistic riff-wise. This riff, the main riff, you can kind of put in an assembly line of other riffs, but the way they use it was really good. So, would you say?
9.8.
All right, 9.6. Good song. See you soon, Marshy. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone.